In the name of Father, Son, Holy Spirit, Amen. I feel a little bit silly because I spoke to Andrew last night and heard that he was giving the talk, so I didn't prepare anything, thinking I could get away with it. But with that being said, there was something that really struck me today in the first hour gospel of today's Pascha service. There was a theme that began to take shape, and that theme has to do with something that we heard on Monday Eve, when Christ had this unusual conversation with his disciples. He comes to his disciples and he asks them, "Who do people say that I am?" And it's unusual because why does it matter to God, to Christ, who people say that he is? Nevertheless, he asks them this question. And so the question essentially is, what do the people say about me? Who do the people say that I am? Those that are sort of following from a distance, the crowds, the multitudes, the people. If he asks this question today, he might be referring to those people that are outside the church, or the people that are within the church but not serving. Who do those people say that I am? And they give him an answer. You know, they're Elijah, one of the prophets. They think you're good, you're a good teacher, but that's it. And so he asks them a second question. Who do you say that I am? Now referring to his followers. Who do you, my followers, my friends, my disciples, who do you say that I am? And again, this might be referring to me. If I'm serving in the church, or if I'm in the church and I'm active in the church, or if I have an active spiritual life, who do I say that God is? And so Peter responds to him and says, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." And if the conversation had ended there, then it would have been like a very pleasant conversation with the disciples. It would have been a pleasant story. But it didn't end there. He goes on to tell them that the Son of Man must suffer and must die. And Peter rebukes him for this and says, "Surely not." And he takes him to the side, starts telling him off. And Christ responds by saying, "You don't understand. Get behind me, Satan. You don't understand the things pertaining to God." And then in today's gospel, in the first hour, the people ask Christ directly, "Who are you?" It says, "Then they said to him, 'Who are you?'" So now we've had the perspective of the people, Elijah, one of the prophets, the perspective of his friends, his followers, the people that were closest to him. "You are Christ, the Son of God." And now it's like there's like a pause in the whole story and we're about to get Christ's perspective. It's such a crucial thing that now we're going to get to see who Christ himself says he is. Who does Christ identify as? What is Christ's identity from his own eyes? And this is important to me because each of us, when we think of Christ's identity, it will be very tailored to each of us. For me, Christ is a friend who I go to and speak to honestly, openly. I'm confident with, I'm comfortable with. Maybe for some of us, he's our king. Or when we think of Christ, we think of a creator. We think of a father. Maybe we think of him as the Son of God. That's our relationship with him. We think of him as the Son of God. But who does Christ identify as? What is his identity? And he gives a sort of vague answer that they don't really understand. But then he says very clearly, says this, "They did not understand that he spoke to them of the Father. Then Jesus said to them, 'When you lift up the Son of Man, then you will know that I am he.'" When you lift up the Son of Man, then you will know that I am he. Christ saw his identity on the cross. His identity on the cross, which is why he got so angry with Peter when Peter refused to accept that he had to die. Christ saw his identity on the cross because it was for that purpose that he came, and the two can't be separated. You cannot separate Christ's identity from his purpose. He was born in the shadow of the cross, and it was in this direction, it was on this path that he walked his whole life, his entire life. And this is important for me because if Christ's identity is on the cross, then it's my identity to follow that same path. Then it's my purpose to follow this same path. There's a story I've always enjoyed hearing. It's about when Amba Musa, the Bishop of the Youth, came to visit Sydney, and he held a conference with all the youth, and at the end there was like a Q&A. And he told them, if you have a question to ask, I want you to get up first, state your name, your occupation, and then ask your question. So people in the crowd got up, my name is Marc, I am an engineer, this is my question. My name is Mariam, I'm a lawyer, this is my question. Until one person got up and he said, my name is Mina, and I am a servant of God. But for a living, I work as a dentist, or a doctor, or whatever. But first and foremost, I am a servant of God. I am a follower of Him. And for us, the implications of this are huge. What we've heard today, the implications of being a follower of Christ is huge for me now. Because if Christ saw His purpose to follow the path of the cross, then my purpose as a follower of Christ is to follow this very same path. Mark Twain, an American author in the early 20th century, wrote something incredibly profound. He said, the two greatest or the two most important moments in a man's life is the day he was born and the day he finds out why. And this is no more true than it is for the church today, especially today. The church, most important 2 days in the church's life is the day that Christ was born and the day that we found out why. And today is that day. Who are you? When I am lifted up, when the Son of Man is lifted up, then you will know that I am He. 4 months ago, we remembered the birth of Christ, and this week we remember the reason that He was born in the first place. So may we find comfort in the knowledge that Christ saw His identity in accomplishing our salvation, and glory be to God forevermore. Amen.